Okay, so that happened. I'm on my little quest. I'm studying Eastern religions, which if any of you have read them, they sound good, but for me, they were very hard to apply. You know, I'd get mad at somebody. I was like, I don't love this person. You know what I mean? I can't love him. I'm mad at him. Okay, so long story short, I go to college. I leave college. My parents are big on you got to go to college. I'm like, I don't need it. I'm me. You know, just like now I tell kids all the time, get trained in something, because I was one of those bozos who was like, oh, I know better than everybody else, right? So in and out of college, finally go to San Francisco, become a hippie, do some drugs, which of course Scientology always says she's a drug addict now, you know, which that was like 1968 or something like that. But to them, that's right now. But anyway, but I'll tell you that anyway, because I want to tell you any of the bad things they'll say about me so you understand. So that was in 68. I did some drugs as a hippie. And I still was looking for this person that I thought was it. And I went to a college. One of my college friends said, oh, you got to try heroin. It's the greatest thing. So I did it one time. I got hepatitis. My poor parents, it had just been one thing after another. Tory's this, Tory's that. Now they've got to fly me back from San Francisco to Lake Forest. I'm in a Lake Forest hospital, and all these snotty people come in going, oh, what a shame, Tory Christman, you did drugs. You know, and I'm like, I hate these people. You know, I'm like Homer Simpson, you know, But you know, I'm trying to be cool, and finally these two guys come in, and this is a true story. I mean, they're actually, this was the book they gave me. They're really nice, and they come in, they got their little Dianetics book on their shoulders, and they're like, wow, hi, you remember us from high school? And I'm thinking, yeah, you're the rich jerks that I don't like, right? But they were really nice. And my parents had a lot of money. It wasn't that I was against money. It was I was against the exclusive snottiness kind of stuff, which ended up being in Scientology at the top of their pyramid. But I didn't know that for 30 years. So a little slow on the draw. But anyway, they give me this book, and I finally say, well, what do you guys do? And they said, well, we're Scientologists. Now, have any of you seen the Dianetic commercial with the volcano exploding? That's how my head was. I was like, wow. You know, it was the one thing I had never heard of. And I go, Scientology, what's that? And they go, well, you know what? We'll leave you this Dianetics book. You can read it, you know, and you can have it. And I'm like, God, that's nice. So I'm reading it. I get better. My dad sends me back to college in Lake Forest, and I'm reading my Dianetics book, and we have a big argument. And he says, you know what, Tory? It's our morals or no school. Like either you're in bed at 10:30, and I'm like, Dad, I'm in college. You know, this guy's been running this trip on me forever. What time I gotta go to bed? And I said, I'm in college. I'm on a phone with them. And he goes, you know what? It's our morals or no school. So I pulled down my shade, I hung up on him, and I wrote with lipstick, your morals or no school, screw you. And I mean, my parents were great, but it was like, that's the line, that's the bottom line, I'm out of here. And I hitchhiked from Lake Forest, Illinois, to Los Angeles, to the American St. Hill. Now, I was a hippie at the time. I was against organizations, because people always say, well, I would never get into that. Well, I was a free speech advocate. I was against organizations. I was against the military. I'd been protesting against the Vietnam War for a long time. So when I walked in and saw these people in these Navy uniforms, right? And they're like, you know, organizational charts, and everybody's kind of marching around. And I'm like, I want to speak to this guy, right? My friend in Lake Forest said, ask for this guy. So I asked for him, and they said, you can't talk to him. He's on course. And I'm like, oh, great, he's on course. So I said, well, when can I talk to him? And they said, he'll call you at 10:30. So I hitchhiked back out into the valley. We were right around on Temple Street. I hitchhiked back to the valley, and I think, I'm with a guy, and we get stoned on grass, and I think, yeah, right, he's going to call us. Because when you do drugs, you never do anything. You always plan on doing all these things, and you never do them. So we're like rolling around on the floor laughing. And at 10:35, the phone rings. And we're both like, no way. And I pick up the phone and I go, it's the guy. And he goes, come on. And so he says, yeah, I'll be out in about 20 minutes. And again, we think, yeah, right, he's going to drive all the way out to the valley. He does. The doorbell rings. He's there. Drives me back to American St. Hill. And we sit there, and I ask him, like, what about the big picture? Because they had a giant picture back then of Hubbard. And to me, it looked like Nazi Germany kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't think so. And he's like, yeah, I know, that's a little weird, and the Navy uniform's a little weird, but don't worry about it, the people are really great. And this was the crowning thing for me as far as being a critical thinker into not a critical thinker. he said, let's go talk to the auditors, which are their consultants, like a therapist kind of thing. And we stood there, and I listened to him talk, and I thought, you know, I don't care what these people do. I want to be an auditor. And that was the real changing point for me on, you know, looking at things, seeing what it is. And that's what happens to most people who get in Scientology. You kind of shut down a little bit, and it ends up where you shut down a lot. Now, that was me getting into Scientology. Now, what are the good things about it? Because I like to tell people, you know, people go, well, what did you like? I mean, obviously there are good things about it. They said it's an applied philosophy. I forgot to tell you that. That was the thing the guys said to me. I said, what's Scientology? They said it's an applied philosophy. Well, that was my problem. Remember with the Eastern religions? I couldn't apply them. So now I'm like, this is it. It's an applied philosophy. It has tools that you can learn. And they're little tools that are easy. Like probably many of you have heard Tom Cruise talk about how great the study tech is, right? Because he had a hard time learning. I mean, because of his ADD thing. Well, I had a hard time in school also memorizing. And the study tech does make things very simple. It's kind of basic stuff that a lot of people would use, but for people who get confused, you don't know that. And it's basically 3 tools. One is look up a word if you don't understand it. The second one is go at your own rate and make sure you don't skip what Hubbard called a gradient. And the third one is don't have a lack of mass. Like if you're talking about ships and you've never seen a ship, go look one up, go touch one, go feel one, right? That's what Tom Cruise is talking about, those 3 things. And it sounds like, how could that be so great? But when you have trouble studying, it really makes it easy. The other thing Hubbard did was he said, I'm going to make these things in check sheets, right? So all of their courses, you can go as fast as you want, or you can go as slow as you want. And in a way, that's very helpful, but in the end, it's tricky because Hubbard built in these traps where you can't talk to other people about the tech, right? He called it Keeping Scientology Working. And it's in every single course that you study, every time. You have to read, and it isn't just this, it's a 6-page article where he goes on and on and on. But I'll read to you the points. It's having the correct technology, knowing the correct technology, knowing it's correct, teaching correctly the correct technology. Now those are like obvious, you know, okay. But then this isn't in here, but he has a whole big long thing on why do groups fail, and they fail because people don't rat on each other. Like she might not be knowing the tech right, I see it, I don't write it up on her, and she's gonna get screwed up and leave. So you start going, oh, okay, and he had a thing called knowledge reports, and you have to write up a knowledge report. If you see anybody who doesn't have the correct technology, they don't know it correctly. So the next one, 6, is seeing the technology is correctly applied, hammering out of existence incorrect technology, knocking out incorrect applications, closing the door on any possibility of incorrect technology, and closing the door on incorrect application. And I'm talking closing. If you don't close that, you're in trouble, okay? So it goes around, you see what I mean? And it costs money. All this stuff costs money. You got to remember that. Scientology is a money-making business machine. And I can say that to anybody at any time. They can say they're a religion all they want all day long. But I know one thing, Hubbard never talked about God, hardly ever. I mean, he may have mentioned him, but on his upper levels, he puts down Jesus, he puts down churches, he puts down a lot of things. And maybe for skeptics, you're like, yeah, that's right. But it's a little weird, you know, the way he pretends he's one thing over here, but then over here, he's really a different thing. And it's very tricky to piece it together because first of all, you're always applying keeping Scientology working. And if you're not, your friend's going to go, you know what? I saw her and she wasn't applying it right. They write it, you'll find out. You'll get a copy of the knowledge report. You've got to go to what they call ethics. They're going to, all right, what's wrong with you? What's your name in the back with the gray hair? What's your name? You. Yeah, what's your name?
David.
David. So let's say they send you to ethics. David, you didn't write up, we've got a knowledge report. You found out that, such and such happened and you saw it happen and you didn't do anything. They're out studying yoga. What happened? They can't study yoga. Do you see what I mean? And then now you're in ethics, what they call ethics. Anyway, I'm getting off track, but I forget what I was talking about, so don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. No.